Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India NewsHour, India's voice to the world. I'm Amritpal Singh. Coming up in the next 1 hour, Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal informs the Parliament that the government will safeguard national interests in wake of US President Trump's 25% tariff announcement. Myanmar's junta ends 4-year emergency, paving the way for elections. Opposition groups pledged to boycott. Trump envoy Steve Witkoff meets Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel amid international pressure to alleviate a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Russia breaks ice with Syria's new leadership in post-Assad era. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov hosts his Syrian counterpart in Moscow. A day after US President Donald Trump announced a 25% tariff on Indian exports and an unspecified penalty because of the country's energy purchases from Russia, Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal said that the centre is studying the implications of the move and will take all necessary steps to safeguard India's national interest.
Speaking in both houses of Parliament on Thursday, Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal said India has gone from being listed as a fragile economy to being on track to becoming the third largest economy in the world. This statement is being seen as a response to Donald Trump's dead economy jibe at India. He said the government will take all necessary steps to secure and advance India's national interest.
The implications of the recent development are being examined by the government. The Ministry of Commerce and Industry is engaged with all stakeholders, including exporters and industry, for taking feedback of their assessment of the situation. The government attaches the utmost importance to protecting and promoting the welfare of our farmers, workers, entrepreneurs, exporters, MSMEs, and all sections of industry. We will take all necessary steps to secure and advance our national interest.
Goyal informed Parliament that India is already in talks with the US for a bilateral trade agreement and multiple rounds of negotiations have already taken place. Trump on Wednesday had announced a 25% tariff on India from the 1st of August. And it's not just India. Trump had threatened tariffs on almost every country in the world that Trump feels the trade terms have not been loaded in the US's favor. However, some countries and blocs worked out trade deals with the US before the August deadline expired. In July, after his meeting with the Philippines president, Trump announced the imposition of just 1% in tariffs from his previous threat of 20%. With Japan, he announced a trade framework to impose 15% tariffs, down from his previously threatened rate of 25%. The US and the EU announced a trade framework that imposes 15% tariffs on most European goods, warding off Trump's most recent threat of 30% if no deal had been reached by the 1st of August. The US president said he reached an agreement with Seoul on the 30th of July that would impose a 15% tariff for goods from South Korea. Other countries like the United Kingdom, Indonesia, and Vietnam also worked similar trade deals with the US. However, countries like China, Brazil, Canada and Mexico are still sparring with Trump over tariffs. Bureau Report, DD India.
And the Indian equity indices ended in red for a second consecutive day on Thursday. The Sensex shed 296.28 points to settle at 81,185.58. The index traded in the range of 81,803.27 to 80,695.15 on Thursday. The NSE Nifty 50 also settled lower at 24,768.35 down 86.7 points after swinging between 24,635 and 24,956.50. While the Indian rupee fell to an over 5-month low on Thursday, the Indian rupee ended at 87.74 against the US dollar. The monsoon session of Parliament continues to witness high drama in the national capital. A day after the marathon debate on Operation Sindoor concluded, Thursday saw repeated disruptions and here's a report on that.
A stormy day in Parliament yet again. Both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha were marred by repeated disruptions on Thursday. Loud protests from opposition benches forced multiple adjournments throughout the day. The tension follows the conclusion of the high-voltage debate on Operation Sindoor the previous day. Amid the ruckus, Lok Sabha reconvened at 4 p.m. Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal rose to address the House, speaking on a matter of critical economic importance: Washington's imposition of a 25% tariff on Indian goods under the administration of US President Donald Trump. The minister assured the House that India is closely evaluating the move and will act in the best interest of the nation.
वाणिज्य एवं उद्योग मंत्रालय निर्यातकों और उद्योग सहित सभी हितधारकों से संवाद कर इस विषय पर उनके आकलन की जानकारी ले रहा है। सरकार हमारे किसानों, श्रमिकों, एंटरप्रेन्योर्स, उद्यमी, निर्यातकों, सूक्ष्म, लघु और मध्यम उद्योगों और उद्योग जगत के सभी हितधारकों के कल्याण की रक्षा और संवर्धन को सर्वोच्च महत्व देती है। हम अपने राष्ट्रीय हितों को सुरक्षित करने और आगे बढ़ाने के लिए सभी आवश्यक कदम उठाएंगे।
Piyush Goyal later made a similar statement in the Rajya Sabha. However, sloganeering by opposition MPs continued unabated, making it difficult for proceedings to continue. The din in both houses highlighted the deepening political divide. With no breakthrough in sight, both houses were eventually adjourned to reconvene at 11 a.m. on Friday. Dibyendu Mondol's report for DD India.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke with Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the President of the United Arab Emirates, over telephone on Wednesday. The two leaders reaffirmed their mutual commitment to further strengthening the bilateral comprehensive strategic partnership between India and the UAE. They positively assessed the remarkable progress made across various sectors of bilateral cooperation and laid emphasis on further developing and deepening collaboration for shared benefit of the peoples of both countries. The UAE President congratulated Prime Minister Modi on becoming the second longest serving Prime Minister in India's history and wished him continued success in his service to the nation. The Union Cabinet on Thursday approved the Central Sector Scheme grant in aid to National Cooperative Development Corporation with an outlay of 2,000 crore rupees for a period of 4 years from 25-26 to 28-29. These funds will be utilized by the NCDC for granting loans to cooperatives for setting up new projects or expansion of plants and loan for meeting the working capital requirements.
और आज जो बड़ा फैसला लिया गया, इस फैसले का महत्व आप समझिए। एनसीडीसी कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटीज को लोन देती है। आज उसका कैपिटल 2000 करोड़ रुपए से बढ़ाया गया ग्रांट इन एड के माध्यम से। एनसीडीसी जो लोन देती है, उस लोन में करीब 99.8% रिकवरी है। नेट एनपीए 0 है। नेट एनपीए 0 है। बहुत बड़ी बात है ये। इस तरह का जो फाइनेंशियल सपोर्ट सिस्टम बना है, उस फाइनेंशियल सपोर्ट सिस्टम जो कि एक अच्छा मॉडल बना है देश में, इसको और आगे बढ़ाने के लिए 2000 करोड़ रुपए 4 साल में एवरी ईयर 500 करोड़ रुपीस, ये इस आज के कैबिनेट के अप्रूवल का क्रक्स है.
And the cabinet chaired by Prime Minister Modi today also approved a total outlay of 6,520 crore rupees, including additional outlay of 1,920 crore rupees for the ongoing central sector scheme, the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Sampada Yojana, during the 15th Finance Commission cycle. This will fund the setting up of 50 multi-product food irradiation units and 100 NABL accredited food testing laboratories.
आज के इस कैबिनेट के फैसले में प्रधानमंत्री कृषि संपदा योजना का आउटले बढ़ा के 6,520 करोड़ किया गया, 6,520 करोड़ किया गया, और नए इररेडिएशन यूनिट्स और फूड टेस्टिंग लैब्स 50 irradiation units and 100 food testing labs के लिए 1,000 करोड़ रुपीस का अलग से प्रावधान किया गया.
In Myanmar, the junta has officially ended the state of emergency, signaling plans for a general election in December. But international observers and opposition voices are raising alarms, calling the move a calculated attempt to solidify the military rule under a democratic facade. DD India's Rahul Upadhyay brings us this report.
Myanmar's junta has ended the country's state of emergency on Thursday, stepping up preparations for a December election that is being boycotted by opposition groups and criticized by international monitors.
The National Security and Peace Commission was formed to provide necessary guidance for national defense, security, and the successful holding of the most democratic general election in the country.
Meanwhile, Myanmar's military on Thursday nominally transferred power to a civilian-led interim government ahead of a planned December election, with the junta chief remaining in charge in his other role as acting president. The military declared a state of emergency in February 2021 as it deposed the civilian government of Aung San Suu Kyi, triggering a many-sided civil war that has claimed thousands of lives. The order gave the junta chief Min Aung Hlaing supreme power over the legislature, executive and judiciary, but he has recently touted elections as an off-ramp to the conflict. Opposition groups, including former lawmakers ousted in the coup, have vowed to snub the poll, which a UN expert last month dismissed as a fraud designed to legitimize the military's continuing rule. With humanitarian needs growing, conflict raging, and democracy under threat, Myanmar enters its next chapter uncertain. Its people still waiting for peace and a promise of real change. Rahul Upadhyay's report for DD India.
In a dramatic policy shift, Canada intends to recognize a Palestinian state at the UN General Assembly in September. Prime Minister Mark Carney stressed that the move was necessary to preserve hopes of a two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. He said it's been a long-standing Canadian goal that was being eroded. It makes Canada the third country following recent announcements by France and the United Kingdom that could recognize Palestinian state in September.
Prospects for a two-state solution have been steadily and gravely eroded, including by the pervasive threat of Hamas terrorism to Israel and its people, culminating in the heinous attack of October 7, 2023, and the terrorist organization Hamas's long-standing violent rejection of Israel's right to exist and its rejection of a two-state solution. A belief in a two-state solution, the inalienable rights of both peoples, and the fact that peace and security could only be achieved through it. That prospect, that possibility of a two-state solution is being eroded before our eyes.
And Israel has expectedly blasted Canada's announcement as a part of what it calls a distorted campaign of international pressure. In a statement, the Israeli Foreign Ministry said that this announcement represented a reward to terrorist faction Hamas and harms the efforts to achieve a ceasefire in Gaza and a framework for the release of the hostages. Meanwhile, Portugal also plans to recognize the state of Palestine as early as September. Prime Minister Luis Montenegro's office on Thursday said that if the conditions presented and largely validated by the states present at the UN conference are met, Portugal could recognize the Palestinian state as early as September at the 80th General Assembly of the UN in New York. Montenegro will first consult with Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa, the nation's president, and the parties in parliament. The Premier's office also said that in the past it has already explained the assumptions or conditions for starting a recognition process. Portugal may join countries like Britain, Canada and France, which have signaled their intention to recognize a Palestinian state in September. U.S. Special Envoy for the Middle East or West Asia, Steve Witkoff, met Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Jerusalem on Thursday in a bid to salvage Gaza truce talks and tackle a humanitarian crisis in the enclave, where a global hunger monitor has warned that famine is unfolding. Indirect ceasefire talks between Israel and Hamas in Doha ended in a deadlock last week, with both sides trading blame for the impasse and gaps lingering over issues, including the extent of an Israeli military withdrawal. Witkoff arrived in Israel facing mounting international pressure over widespread destruction of Gaza and constraints on aid in the territory, with Canada, the latest Western power, to say it will recognize the Palestinian state. Meanwhile, the UN Office for Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs said on Wednesday that the UN and its partners have been able to bring more food into Gaza in the first 2 days of the pauses, but the volume was still far from enough. Still to come up on DD India NewsHour, Ukraine votes to restore independence of two key anti-corruption agencies. Water crisis in Iran worsens as President warns that Tehran's dams may run dry within months.
Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran? The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you. You read between the lines, cut the clutter, and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only on DD India.
You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Amritpal Singh. Ukraine's parliament on Thursday voted to restore the independence of two of its key anti-corruption agencies. Lawmakers voted 331-0 in favor of the bill, which President Volodymyr Zelensky submitted last week following pressure from thousands of protesters and top European officials. The measure now goes to Zelensky for a signature. Before voting began, people gathered outside the parliament in an attempt to pressurize the lawmakers to approve the new bill. Meanwhile, President Zelensky on Thursday said that the world should push for a regime change in Russia, arguing that President Vladimir Putin otherwise would continue to destabilize Russia's neighbors. Speaking virtually to a conference marking 50 years since the signing of the Cold War-era Helsinki Accords, Zelensky said he believes Russia could be pushed to stop the war. Russia's Penza region governor Oleg Melnychenko said on Thursday that Ukrainian drones had struck a local industrial facility. According to the governor, the drone's attack did not cause any fatalities, though Russia's state railway company said that drone debris had hit railway infrastructure and temporarily halted trains in the southern Volgograd region. Russia's defense ministry said that it had downed 32 Ukrainian drones over several Russian regions. And Ukrainian emergency services on Thursday said that a wave of Russian missiles and drone attacks on Kyiv killed at least 8 people and destroyed multiple buildings. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said that Russia launched more than 300 drones and 8 missiles. Meanwhile, Russia on Thursday said it had captured the town of Chasiv Yar in eastern Ukraine. Russia's defense ministry said in a brief statement that its forces had liberated the town. Russian President Vladimir Putin on Thursday hosted Laotian President Thongloun Sisoulith for talks at the Kremlin. According to a statement from the Kremlin, the two leaders are expected to focus their discussions on cooperation between Russia and Laos on areas of trade, economy, cultural and humanitarian affairs, and to touch on important regional and international issues. Okay, something interesting is happening in Syria. The Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov today met his Syrian counterpart Assad al-Shibani in Moscow on Thursday. Now, this is important because Russia used to back Assad. The world was clearly looking at how in a post-Assad era, Russia, what kind of a role would Russia play? Now, Russia is reaching out to the new regime. They've agreed to regularly inspect bilateral agreements covering security, personnel training, both civilian and military, reflecting Syria's interests. Lavrov hoped that President Ahmed al-Shara, who ousted Bashar al-Assad in December, would attend the Russia-Arab summit in October. Al-Shibani emphasized Damascus's desire for Moscow's support to unify Syria. The talks signaled a pragmatic shift as Russia adapts to Syria's new leadership while maintaining influence. So the Russians continue to be significant players in Syria. Shifting focus to Iran now. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian on Thursday warned against excessive water consumption and said it could leave Tehran facing severe shortages by September. He said, and I quote him, "If we in Tehran cannot manage the situation and people do not cooperate with us, we fail to control consumption, there will be no water left behind our dams," unquote. According to Tehran Provincial Water Supply Company, levels in the reservoirs supplying the city have fallen to their lowest in a century. Authorities have urged residents to install water tanks and pumps to cope with disruptions to the supply. At the invitation of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, President of the Republic of Philippines, Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr., will pay a state visit to India from the 4th to the 8th of August. He will be accompanied by the First Lady, Madame Luis Araneta Marcos, and a high-level delegation including several cabinet ministers, other dignitaries and senior officials, in addition to business representatives. This would be the first visit of President Marcos to India since the assumption of office of the President of the Philippines. During the visit, Prime Minister Modi and President Marcos are scheduled to hold bilateral discussions. President Marcos will also be meeting his Indian counterpart Draupadi Murmu. Both countries have since developed a strong partnership across a wide spectrum of areas, including trade and investment, defense and security, maritime cooperation, agriculture, healthcare, pharmaceuticals and digital technologies. The two countries also engage closely at the regional level, including through India's comprehensive strategic partnership with ASEAN. India's relationship with the Philippines are an integral pillar of our Act East policy, Vision Mahasagar and the Vision Indo-Pacific. Let's now take a look at other stories making news around the world. In Bavaria, a massive corn maze shaped like a map of Europe features a dove near Ukraine, symbolizing hope for peace. The maze's owners have designed the creative theme since 1999, from comics to the World Cup. This year's design aims to celebrate Europe's beauty, diversity and unity. In Jakarta, traditional street performers fear losing their livelihoods as authorities plan to restrict ondel puppet use. These secret puppets once used to ward off evil and are now facing citywide crackdown. New rules may limit their appearances to official events only. In Fatick in Senegal, saltigues who are spiritual figures gather to perform the Zoui ceremony before rains arrive. Moving in circles and drawing symbols in the sand, they make predictions for the season ahead. They make predictions. This prediction-making ritual remains a vital part of culture and spiritual life of Senegal. South Africa's ostrich farming sector braces for losses as US tariffs take effect from the 1st of August. A 30% duty on exports could slow businesses and hurt farm profits. Industry leaders have warned of reduced trade with the United States. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to visit his parliamentary constituency Varanasi in Uttar Pradesh on the 2nd of August to inaugurate and lay the foundation stone of multiple infrastructure and development projects, valued at approximately 2,200 crore rupees. The projects aimed at boosting connectivity, urban development and public amenities in the region are part of the ongoing efforts to transform Varanasi into a smart and sustainable city, spanning sectors such as infrastructure, education, healthcare, tourism, cultural heritage and urban development, with key highlights including road and power upgrades, riverfront beautification of 21 parks, 47 drinking water schemes under the Jal Jeevan mission, enhanced school and hospital facilities. And still to come up on DD India NewsHour, a discussion on the US tariffs impact on the world economy with experts on the show. Shubman Gill goes past Sunil Gavaskar, breaks Gavaskar's 47-year-old record.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout ho gaya.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome to DD India, where a billion voices unite, connecting viewers to the stories that matter. India is not just another news channel. It's the international channel that puts the spotlight on the global south, bringing you stories from the heart of emerging economies, dynamic cultures and transformative voices. As the international news channel of India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati, DD India delivers high-quality content from every corner of the globe, focusing on the stories that shape our future. We don't just report news. We connect you to India's voice in the global narrative, from current affairs to culture, from economic growth to sustainable development and the ever-evolving world order. DD India gives you a comprehensive view of the world around us. Stay connected, stay informed, and embrace the stories that shape our lives. DD India. India's voice to the world.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Amritpal Singh. Before we proceed further on the show, let's take a look at the headlines we're tracking at this hour. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal informs the Parliament that the government will safeguard national interests in wake of US President Trump's 25% tariff announcement. Myanmar's junta ends the 4-year emergency, paving way for elections. Opposition groups pledge to boycott. Trump envoy Steve Witkoff meets Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel amid international pressure to alleviate humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Russia breaks ice with Syria's new leadership. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov hosts his Syrian counterpart in Moscow. All right, to talk about the US tariffs announcement by Donald Trump, which is supposed to come into effect from the 1st of August, and the Indian government's response today in the Parliament by the Commerce Minister. How to decode that? I'm joined by Ambassador Mohan Kumar, former senior diplomat. He's been our ambassador to France and Bahrain and is currently the Director General of the Motwani Jadeja Institute for American Studies at the Jindal Global University in the National Capital Region. Also, I have with me on the show Professor Sachin Chaturvedi. He's the Vice Chancellor of Nalanda University. He's also the Director General of Research Information Systems for Developing Societies. Thank you both gentlemen for being on the show. Ambassador Kumar, to begin with you first. We heard what the government said today, saying that we're looking into the implications of what Trump's announced, but assuring the House and the nation through the House that they will do everything to protect India's interest. What should we make of Trump's tariff tactic and India's posture?
Thank you very much for having me. I think President Donald Trump is playing hardball, and he's playing hardball not just with India, he's playing hardball with Canada. You saw the reaction in the European Union. They believe that they have not got a good deal. So there are a number of countries. So in that sense, I would like viewers in India to see the problem in its holistic perspective. This is a negotiating style he has brought to the table, not just vis-a-vis India, but with other countries. The second point I'd like to make is that this is an important relationship, whichever way you look at it. So as far as we are concerned, we are going to treat it as an important relationship. We will continue to negotiate in good faith. What we would like is a balanced, fair, and mutually advantageous deal. And that is what we are looking for. The Commerce Minister and the government have also made it clear that while you can make compromises with regard to dollars and cents, you cannot play around with the livelihoods of farmers, whether it is agriculture farmers, dairy farmers, or small or medium entrepreneurs. So subject to that livelihood issue, as I call it, which is, I think, vital. I think in all other areas, we will continue to negotiate. And frankly, having done trade negotiations for 10 years in Geneva, I don't see this as a very unusual thing to happen. Invariably, when you have tough negotiations, there comes a point when negotiations break down. That happens in every single trade negotiation. And then if parties can meet again, talk things through, then I think it's fine. You will have some kind of a deal down the road. But for now, I think the government says we continue to negotiate. We have vitally important interests to protect, which we will protect. But we also realize that talks will go on, and we are happy to do that with a view to getting a fair and balanced and mutually advantageous deal.
Okay. Let me bring in Sachin Chaturvedi here. Mr. Chaturvedi, the government says it's negotiating. It wants what it calls a fair, balanced and mutually beneficial bilateral trade agreement. And negotiations for that have been going on for the last few months. then why did Trump have to do this? Ambassador Kumar says this is not unusual. But if this is not unusual, isn't he acting tough really? This doesn't look mutually beneficial. I mean, the deal's first stage could have been completed by, say, September, October, or even November. He could have waited, given more time.
Amritpalji, what Dr. Mohan Kumar just now said, I largely agree in terms of there is a term which is used for negotiating space adjacent to the room in which negotiations are happening, and that's called green room. So what is happening now is that the new administration in the US has opened up the green room for wider media speculation and bringing in a sort of psychological game. I think our popular media, our popular commentaries, they should have now restraint in terms of seeing how things are panning out. Quite a few of these are games which are on, which are tactical, and we need not immediately give in terms of what has happened. What is actually tactical positioning, what is pressure creating situation. So I think we need to have restraint in terms of seeing how things are panning out, what are the issues that are on table, and to what extent US would go. See, a large part of our exports to US has issues which are related to and fall into the category of direct consumer consumption. So the consumer consumption, if is facing large duties, it is going to be counterproductive to the US administration itself, which is going to face a huge inflation crisis. Unlike many other countries which are into capital goods and other dimensions of imports which do not matter to consumers directly. So this issue is something that US administration realizes very well. From our own perspective, if you see the trends that have picked up, and I think Commerce Ministry has very wisely now started leveraging strength of Indian economy, Atmanirbhar Bharat, and dimensions of our macro economic management and bringing in production sector in a very strong manner. We are clear in terms of how we can be part of global value chains. We are leveraging free trade agreements, and UK is a very clear example, but so was UAE and Australia. We are also showing a greater willingness for more FTAs. So I think we should leverage diversification of the market. We should leverage the strength of the consumer preferences in the US market. And I'm sure as things would move later in the middle of August, you would find that position would change very fast.
That's an interesting point that you raise. Ambassador Kumar, is then India also leveraging that, or signaling to Trump that, look, if you don't want to trade with us or I get too difficult, we are looking at reducing our dependency of trade with you. We have the rest of the world to trade, by listing out these various agreements that have happened in the recent past in today's statement.
I think India's foreign and trade policy is well known to the Americans. They know we buy oil from Russia. They know we are in the middle
they are miffed with us because of that. He's miffed with us because of that.
We are also negotiating a free trade agreement with European Union. We are negotiating a free trade deal with other countries. So they know that. I don't think we need to tell United States anything. I would suggest we treat this relationship on its own merit. Tell the Americans that these are the red lines. It's difficult for a country like India to put the agriculture farmers, dairy farmers, and small and medium entrepreneurs' livelihoods at stake. Aside of this, we are happy to negotiate on everything else. That's the position I would take. Of course, I've left the government long ago, so I don't know exactly what is going on. But it seems to me it's better to tell the United States your position, what your red lines are. But the last point I would like to make is that any trade negotiation, and like I said, my experience in Geneva, artificial deadlines never help. The Uruguay round was supposed to be concluded in 4 years. It went on to be concluded in 8 years. You take our own FTA with the European Union. We were supposed to conclude it long back, but we haven't yet concluded. UK began long back, and with Boris Johnson, we told him we will conclude by Diwali, except that we didn't tell which Diwali. So we have finally concluded it. That is what I mean when I say all trade negotiations are tough. They go down to the wire. Invariably, they will break down. Then negotiators will regroup and then get together. So I agree with Professor Sachin Chaturvedi. Further down the road, we will see what happens. But I don't think we should avoid doing two things. One, we should avoid looking at this like a doomsday scenario. It's not a catastrophe.
Okay.
Second, I would say don't react emotionally. You know, I've seen some WhatsApp groups in which people are hyperventilating and saying we have been insulted, our ego. There is nothing like that. In trade negotiations, it is your hard national interest that is at stake. Don't react emotionally. Don't have false deadlines. And don't say never to never. Just continue to talk and do it in a manner that is transparent to your own audience. Establish your red line and try to make compromises in other areas.
Yeah, in my assessment, I think that's what the strategy the government is taking. I mean, it's given a very measured response to Donald Trump's bombast. Their strategy is, okay, we've taken note of it. But let's, Professor Chaturvedi, try and understand the implications of this. What impact this announcement of 25% tariff, which comes into effect from tomorrow, would have on, the Indian economy?
See, Amritpalji, we should think of broad sectors and their classification in terms of how we see the absorptive capacity of different sectors. As I said earlier, pharmaceutical sector is the key one where as absorptive capacity is extremely high. The fact that demand has multiplied and our total exports, almost $26 billion export, is of consumable products. And out of that, you find a large section is where our industry can absorb additional tariff. And don't forget that our competitors are also facing enhanced tariff. So the products that we were selling at X, it is now XX, but it is also X plus for others. It may not be same. So we were not in competition with EU, which is at 15%, or Japan, which is at 15%, but we are with other exporters of products like China, like Vietnam, who have entered in the scenario related to subcomponents of pharmaceutical sector. So there you find that you are not completely out of competition. So I think those sectors where the chunk of $26 billion is lying, we are fairly well placed. The issue would come up in processed agriculture products, which is $6 to $9 billion, the way you calculate. So $6 to $9 billion is something that you are going to face severe competition with markets which are also engaged in similar products. So what we have done at my institute is to do product-wise calculation and the competitive scenario that is there. So what we are seeing is that a large impact you can avoid at this stage in terms of where exactly it would go and the new opportunities which are creating in its impact on Indian economy.
So what
US exports, yes, to some extent, definitely.
So Professor, what sectors are we going
to be able to minimize that?
Professor, what sectors are we going to take a hit in?
So I would say that automobile parts and components certainly would be an area where we would have a challenge. We would also have processed food sector, which would face heat in the market. Third are some chemical products, and there we compared the unit cost of our products vis-a-vis other markets, given the kind of tariffs they have been exposed to. So these four sectors we are feeling are going to face specific challenges.
Okay. Good that you broke it down. Ambassador Kumar, if we look at Donald Trump calls India the tariff king. But if we look closely at the data, it shows that India's weighted average tariff on US imports is on many products under 5%. If you say the simple average tariff is about 17% actual duties on key American imports, but the weighted average tariff is much below 5%, and the US on its part also imposes very high tariffs. This is according to WTO data. It imposes high duties on items such as dairy products, 200%, fruits and vegetables, 132%, cereals and food preparations, 196%, fats and oils, 164%, and so on and so forth. Beverages and tobacco, 350%. So, where is Donald Trump coming up with this, that India is a huge tariff king?
So let me explain. You should not also defend everything. At the end of the day, we have to also accept where we have to change. I think the one issue that I would highlight is our tariffs have been changing, and security and predictability of tariffs is important. You cannot change it every 2 budgets or every 3 budgets. That's the first thing. I'm not defending the American position. You ask me a question, I'm responding to it objectively. So that is the first. People want tariff levels to remain the same. The second thing is, just don't go by the basic tariff. There are also issues with regard to special additional duties and some other duties. So these 2 categories have to be added to your tariff. That's the second. Last but not least, we have introduced a whole lot of certification requirements for products and services coming into India. Those certification requirements are proving to be onerous for our trading partners. So you are right. We don't have to necessarily accept when somebody calls us the tariff king, but I think it is in our interest to simplify the tariffs, make the tariffs predictable and secure so that the traders know exactly how much they have to pay, and finally get rid of some non-tariff barriers like certification requirement. So those reforms, we can use this opportunity, in my view, to carry out those reforms so that it becomes simple for our traders to trade with India.
All right. And also, negotiate on the tariff, on the trade deal. Okay, I'm totally out of time, but Professor Chaturvedi, I cannot let go of both of you without asking this. Tariffs is one part. The other thing that he said was the penalties on buying, on defense and energy ties with Russia. What kind of penalties is he hasn't specified that, and what impact would that have on Professor Chaturvedi, to you, on the India-US relation, and Ambassador Kumar on India-Russia relationship. First, Professor Chaturvedi, you please.
Thank you. Thanks, Anupalji. I think as has been explained amicably well by our Petroleum Minister Hardeep Puri umpteen times in terms of how we see this bandwidth for countries like India, as in when they have entered in the global oil market, the prices have badly affected interests of small countries because we are such large consumers. So it has to be appreciated by US that India, buying it from multiple sources, including from Russia, it is helping stabilize the global oil prices. So we play a very important role in terms of stabilizing global prices, and this has to be explained to them. Okay. How it affects the Indian interest in terms of the tariff going to combine with this penalty, that is to be seen. The specific details are missing as of now. It's not clear in what way it would be translated, what products it would include in. And if you recall, India has consistently enhanced US and US has agreed in terms of huge demand that India has to enter in the Russian market. So it has happened with the consent of the US in the past.
All right. Ambassador Kumar, on the India-US relationship, which is far wider than trade. I mean, it's a comprehensive strategic partnership.
You mean the India-Russia relationship?
Okay, India-Russia relationship. Yes, India-Russia, sorry.
But in any case, because Professor Chaturvedi already spoke
about the American. Yes.
So let me address the India-Russia relationship. We have a legacy relationship with Russia. We have been following a policy of strategic autonomy and independence. My view is, if we get cheaper petrol or cheaper crude oil than what Russia is supplying, we will very happily buy it. I don't think we are wedded to buying oil just from Russia. The fact that we don't want to put all eggs in one basket means if US or somebody else can sell us cheaper crude oil, we'll very happily shift. Because I think what people have to understand is that India's economy is poised at a critical stage. We cannot let down the people who live below the poverty line. And that is important for us to consume. As Professor Chaturvedi said, we are huge consumers of petrol and crude oil. So I think the economic basis is very sound, and that needs to be understood.
And that needs to be conveyed to the Americans as well. And given that Donald Trump is a businessman, I'm sure he would be practical. He's just using this as a trade, as a negotiating tactic before, the deal is signed. I thank both gentlemen, Ambassador Mohan Kumar and Professor Sachin Chaturvedi, for taking out time and lending us your insights. Thank you. And moving on, in Bangladesh, a technician died and another was seriously injured after boarding bridge wheel exploded at the Sailet Osmani International Airport. The blast occurred during routine maintenance by outsourced workers from Sunrise Company. Airport Director Hafiz Ahmed said that 5 to 6 workers were repairing the wheels when the accident happened. The cause of the explosion is under investigation, but no aircraft or airport facilities were damaged. The Indira Gandhi National Centre for Arts hosted a significant event celebrating India's rich cultural legacy. Titled Timeless Texts and Universal Teachings, the valedictory ceremony marked the proud inscription of Bhagavad Gita and Natya Shastras into the UNESCO Memory of the World International Register. The global recognition highlights the enduring wisdom and universal values enshrined in these ancient Indian texts, one a spiritual guide and another a foundational treatise on performing arts. Vivek Agarwal, the Secretary of the Ministry of Culture, graced the occasion as a chief guest and lauded the efforts made in preserving and promoting India's intangible heritage on the global stage.
This particular event, that is to commemorate the memory of the world inscription for Bhagavad Gita and Natya Shastra, is indeed very significant, because this is the time when we are also launching the Gyan Bharata mission on manuscripts. Honorable Prime Minister is really keen that we identify, we preserve, and we not only preserve, we make sure that the knowledge that is there in our manuscripts actually gets out of those manuscripts and reaches the scholars, reaches the common citizens, to the extent that it reaches the students, even up to the school level.
Let's now take a look at other stories making news. In Navy, Vice Admiral Krishna Swaminathan assumed charge as the Chief of the Western Naval Command in Mumbai. He succeeds Vice Admiral Sanjay Singh, who retired after 40 years of service. India and the UAE hosted the second Defence Industry Partnership Seminar in New Delhi alongside the Joint Defence Cooperation Committee meeting. Both nations reaffirmed their commitment to build a future-ready and trusted defence partnership. Senior IPS officer Shashi Bhushan Kumar Singh has taken charge as the 25th Commissioner of Delhi Police, succeeding Sanjay Arora. A 1988 batch Agmut cadre officer, he has probed high-profile cases including the Upar fire tragedy and the Ponti Chadda murder case. Extreme weather is battering regions across the globe. In India, Himachal Pradesh is facing deadly flash floods, while New Delhi got relief from the heat with light showers. China is reeling under both devastating floods and record-breaking heat. Wildfires are raging across parts of Spain and Portugal, forcing evacuations. DD India's Nishchoy Roy reports.
From scorching heat waves to torrential rains, the world is witnessing a cascade of climate extremes. As India reels under the fury of monsoon-triggered disasters, other parts of the globe are either battling wildfires, drowning in floods, or suffocating under record heat. In India's Himachal Pradesh, relentless monsoon conditions have wreaked havoc in Mandi, Kullu, and Chamba, with cloudbursts and flash floods sweeping away homes and roads. A crucial stretch connecting Chamba and Pangi has been washed away, cutting off access to remote areas. The India Meteorological Department or IMD has warned of continued heavy rainfall across Himachal, Rajasthan and the northeast until August 4. In Delhi NCR, continuous rain brought a sigh of relief on Thursday after days of oppressive heat. The IMD forecasts light showers in the region through August 5th. Meanwhile, North China is in mourning after extreme rainfall in Chengde near Beijing left 8 people dead and 18 missing. A week's downpour dumped a year's worth of rain, swamping villages and triggering landslides. In stark contrast, southwest China is battling a searing heat wave, with temperatures soaring to 41.5 degrees Celsius. In Rio de Janeiro, a storm surge brought waves as high as 12 feet, lashing the coastline and forcing authorities to close coastal roads. Meanwhile, Washington DC and surrounding regions are sweltering under a heat wave. Temperatures are nearing 98 degrees Fahrenheit, with a heat index peaking at 106 degrees Fahrenheit. In Europe, Spain's central province of Caceres is ablaze. Wildfires have scorched 2,500 hectares of forest land, forcing evacuations in Camino Morisco. Across the border in northern Portugal, similar wildfires continue to rage, fueled by hot, dry winds and rising temperatures. The escalating frequency and intensity of these weather events across the globe are sounding alarm bells. Scientists continue to link such extremes to climate change. Nishchoy Roy's report for DD India.
Time for some sports news now. It's related to cricket. Shubman Gill became the highest scoring Indian captain in a test series during the opening day of the 5th test against England at the Oval in London. Gill went past Sunil Gavaskar's tally of 732 runs, which he had come against West Indies at home in 1978. With more than 737 runs under his belt in the ongoing series so far, Gill has had a promising start to his journey as a test captain. During the second test at Edgbaston, Gill had become the second highest run scorer in a single match in test history. He racked up 430 runs in the match, following a mammoth 269 in the first innings with a 161-run knock in the second. After twin failures at Lord's in the third test, Gill bounced back with a sublime century in the second innings at Old Trafford, which helped India hold England to a draw in the fourth test. That's it then in this edition of DD India NewsHour, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. The app is available both on Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on your screen to download. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Amrit Pal Singh. From my entire team here in Delhi, thank you for watching DD India NewsHour. Bye-bye.